Okay, so I think generally I can rate the promotion protocol in UNN as the one of the most rigorous in Nigeria. In terms of standard, in terms of process, I can't imagine a Pantami coming from nowhere to get promoted to professorship, because the process is very well scaffolded in a way that will make it difficult for someone to drop from the skies and then get there. So, well, from the let me run you through. If you are best graduating student or first class, you get if you get employed, then you start from a graduate assistant position. If you finish your MSc, master studies, then you get promoted automatically to assistant lecturer position. After 1 year, then you get promoted to lecturer two. After 3 years, you will qualify to get promoted to lecturer one if you have published the required number of papers. After 3 years, so there's this 3 year waiting period in the University of Nigeria.
It doesn't
After
mean how much you produce. You have to wait for that 3 years.
Yes, no matter how much you produce, there's also what we call double jump, which I will explain very presently. So you have this 3 years, then you get promoted from assistant lecturer to lecturer two. From lecturer two, after 3 years, lecturer one. From lecturer one, the next step is senior lecturer, but it begins to get more rigorous in terms of quality of publication that you are required to have, quality of intellectual output. So from senior lecturer, then after 3 years, you should be assessed for associate professor, what we call reader in the British system. So then you have to have, then the demands become even more serious when you have to have a number of publications in what they call the impact factor journals that are rated by Clarivate Analytics, that are given some level of rating that we call impact factor, which I can also explain if you have all the time. So from lecture reader, after 3 years, then you be qualify to be assessed for full professorship. So there's something we call double jump. Double jump is you can stay from, instead of going from senior lecturer, instead of going from lecturer one to senior lecturer, you can go from lecturer one to reader. If you have the required number of outputs, and you wait for 5 years. So instead of 3 years to senior lecturer and 3 years to reader, you can do 5 years to reader from lecturer one. So as senior lecturer, instead of doing 3 years to reader, 3 years to full professor, you can wait for 5 years to do full professor from senior lecturer. So that's what we call double jump. When in some other universities, it can be shorter. We have been advocating you need to shorten this. You need to have two tracks. Those who are on the fast lane, who are very gifted, who are proficient, prolific, can move faster than others who would prefer to wait, produce one paper in a year, two papers in a year, and then you wait for 3 years. So that's the protocol. But why I say I would rate the UNN as one of the most rigorous in Nigeria today is in terms of publication quality. You are required to publish a certain number of papers in internationally rated journals that are rated to be among the best in the world, that are listed on the Web of Science. There's the Web of Science, those that we call the Clarivate Analytics. They used to be Thomson and Reuters, but Thomson and Reuters sold that web management to the Clarivate Analytics. So what they do is to host journals and to list journals that they think are doing well based on the peer review mechanism that journal deploys, and based on how rigorous they are in publication, how the quality of the things they publish. So a certain journals are listed on their web management system. And so in UNN, you are required to, for full professor, for example, you have to publish 10 in 10 10 journal articles in those journals. Then you're also required to publish a number of papers in local journals, and perhaps if you have a book. But a book, not unlike the US, where a book, what they call most universities, I have experienced Harvard or Chicago and all sorts of places, where you have to have what they call a second book. That is a book you wrote after your PhD. You have to have that before you become a full professor, in addition to other journal articles you have. But in UNN, whether you have a book or not, you can become a full professor, so long as you have the required number of papers in those highly rated journals. But we see that other Nigerian universities are playing catch up now. UNN seems to be the most rigorous. Even people to whom they send our papers to assess do not have the kind of quality of publications that we have. So people have been protesting. Some people who feel it is too much, the demands are so much for them. Even part of the argument is, why would you subject me to be assessed by someone who is not qualified to hold a candle to me in terms of publication? Because many of those people who become professors in other universities, in Benue, in all sorts of places, do not have that quality. So what is the logic that they qualify to assess those who have even more quality than they have? But well, you can't. Some of these things, life is not 1+1 is 2. There are a number of things you have to remove from the context to be able to manage. So that's basically what we do in UNN. So he has to go through the department. From the department, he goes to the faculty. The faculty, all the professors in the faculty gather to look at what you have presented and assess, and do all sorts of corrections. From there, it goes to the university council, especially if it's for senior lecturer, professorial cadre. Then it goes to the university council. After the university council has assessed, then they send to, it used to be, they send one to another professor in Nigeria, send one to another professor in another African country, then send one to either Europe or America. But somehow today, I don't know whether it's based on, because of some protocol, they have removed that of external. They now send to Africa, one of Africa, and then two to other Nigerian universities. So after the assessment, if they receive at least 2 out of the 3, then the council can make a decision based on that. So that's how the process goes. Sometimes the human factor can interfere in terms of who returns, whether your papers return early or return late, whether they get announced when they should, and all that. So all those come in. But to qualify for your papers to be sent out in the first place, you have to have a very high ranging publications in the best journals in the world.
So someone who is not present at UNN, has never taught at UNN, will not be named a professor at UNN. Is that correct?
No. So okay. Even if you are transferred, if you apply and then somehow the university, the UNN calls for some application for people to just come in from external, then you can apply to come. But when you come, you have to be reassessed. That is, even if you are employed as a professor, within 12 months, you have to be assessed, what we call regularization process. You have to be interviewed, and then your papers will have to be assessed to actually see whether you qualify to be called a professor in the context of the university. If you do not have what it takes, then you'll be placed properly. If you qualify for senior lecturer, you'll be placed as senior lecturer. You move down one ladder to senior lecturer position. If you qualify for the other lower one, they place you properly. So if you have all it takes, then your professorship will be confirmed.